a few attack helicopters. Yes, cut across. Yes.
मौजूद है कीव के एकदम बीचों बीच इस समय हमारी पूरी टीम मौजूद है और आपने देखा हमारे सिर के ऊपर से किस तरीके से फाइटर एयरक्राफ्ट निकले। और आपको यह भी बता दूं कि जो तस्वीरें आप देख रहे हैं, जो अभी दर्शकों को हमने ऐलान सुनाया, वो ऐलान भी होने लगा है। और उसके बाद की तस्वीर मैं कोशिश करूंगा अपने सहयोगी से। कीव के दूसरी तरफ मैं देख पा रहा हूं सोहेल अपनी आंखों से, कारों की लंबी कतार लगी हुई है। एक ऊंचाई वाले इलाके पर इस समय हम पहुंचे हैं ताकि पूरे शहर की तस्वीर आपको दिखा सके। यहां पर जैसे ही ऐलान हुआ, लोग जहां भी जगह मिल रही है वहां पर छिप गए हैं। हमारी कोशिश भी है कि पास में कोई मेट्रो स्टेशन है वहां तक पहुंचे और वहां पर क्योंकि बहुत ज्यादा भीड़ है, कुछ वीडियोस हमारे पास पहुंचे हैं स्थानीय लोगों की तरफ से भी। श्रवण वो वीडियोस बताते हैं किस तरीके का माहौल है, लोग परेशान है, डरे हुए, छिपे हुए हैं।
कुछ मिनटों पहले जो हमने देखा अटैक हेलीकॉप्टर्स, मैं ये कोशिश कर रहा हूँ हमारे जो जितने लोग हम जानते हैं मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ डिफेंस से, यहाँ के यूक्रेनियन आर्मी की, उनसे पता करने की, बट इस वक्त संपर्क करना थोड़ा मुश्किल हो रहा है ताकि ये हम अपने दर्शकों को बता पाए कि जो अटैक हेलीकॉप्टर्स इस वक्त कीव के ऊपर चल रहे हैं वो यूक्रेनियन आर्मी की है या रशियन ट्रूप्स के। क्योंकि देखिए जो खबर हमें इससे पहले बेस है, जो मिलिट्री बेस है सिविलियन एयरपोर्ट से थोड़ी ही दूर में 25 माइल यहाँ से, जहां से हम लोग ब्रॉडकास्ट कर रहे हैं, यहाँ से थोड़ी दूरी पर है, उसकी एयर स्ट्रिप्स को उसके ऊपर धावा बोल चुके हैं। रशियन ट्रूप्स कल एयर ड्रॉप हो चुके हैं, कुछ रशियन ट्रूप्स यहाँ पे मतलब कीव के अंदर आ चुके हैं। तो कहीं ना कहीं जिस तरह से हम देख रहे हैं कि बहुत दूरी से नहीं, बहुत ही सामने
बोलते रहिए, आवाज आ रही है।
जो जिस तरह से हमने देखा कि एयर स्ट्रिप्स में ट्रूप्स डिप्लॉय हो चुके हैं, साफ तरीके से कहीं ना कहीं इस वक्त जो हम अपने दर्शकों को कह सकते हैं, थोड़े बहुत जो जानकारी थोड़ी पुष्टि करके जो हम जानकारी इस वक्त दे रहे हैं कि प्लान बहुत उनका सीधे तौर से कीव पर धावा बोलना है, ये बहुत साफ हो चुका है।
कैमरे में आपको नजर आ रही है, इससे कुछ ही दूरी पर, कुछ ही किलोमीटर की दूरी पर धमाके हुए हैं। धमाकों की आवाज हम सुन सकते हैं और धमाके ये बताते हैं कि कीव पर किस तरीके से रूस कब्जा करना चाहता है। लगातार ये कोशिश है कि कीव को चारों तरफ से घेरा जाए। कुछ शहरों के नाम मैं आपको बताना चाहूंगा। वेश्वोगोरोड, वो इलाका जहां पर कल भी बम फेंके गए थे, और अभी भी कीव के कुछ सेंटर इलाके में बिल्कुल मध्य में कुछ धमाकों की तस्वीरें सामने आई हैं। यूक्रेन की आर्मी लगातार रोकने की कोशिश कर रही है। कुछ जानकारी मिल पा रही है, कुछ जानकारी
जवाब आया, वो कह रहे कि वी आर नॉट वेरी श्योर इस वक्त कि क्या हो रहा है इस कीव के इलाके पर कोशिश यही करेंगे कि बहुत ही जल्द अपने दर्शकों को ये दिखाए। और साथ ही साथ मैं कहूंगा कि हमारे जो न्यूज रूम में है वो लगातार वो तस्वीरें दिखाएं, क्योंकि अटैक हेलीकॉप्टर्स, इतने लो फ्लाइंग अटैक हेलीकॉप्टर्स इस वक्त है, उससे साफ जाहिर होता है। देखिए, जब मैं कहता हूं कि अटैक हेलीकॉप्टर्स की जो हाइट होती है, फ्लाइंग हाइट होती है, उससे थोड़ी ज्यादा होती है, बट कॉम्बैट के टाइम पे जिस तरह से इसे नीचे लाया जाता है, और कल हमने देखा कि यहां से करीबन 20 किलोमीटर दूरी पर कई सारे हेलीकॉप्टर्स को मार गिराया था यूक्रेनियन आर्मी ने। तो कहीं ना कहीं जो जंग है वो जंग चालू है।
बिल्कुल, हमारे इंग्लिश के दर्शक भी हमें श्रवण सुन रहे हैं लगातार, और जो तस्वीरें वाकई हमने देखी, कैमरे में कैद हुई है फाइटर जेट्स की।
Well, in fact, I'll ask our newsroom back in Mumbai to put out those images, because those images have been captured on our cameras of at least 2 attack helicopters which were just flying, barely about few meters away from where we are standing, very low, right over the residential areas of Kyiv in the central area. And let me also tell our viewers where we are broadcasting from. It's a slightly advantageous, it's a vantage point which gives us a view of central Kyiv, from where we can actually tell you, because right down 50 meters down from here, around 4 o'clock this morning, is when the explosion took place, and that's when Republic Media crew actually woke up with that loud thud. And thereafter, while we were doing our broadcast for a sister channel around 6 o'clock in the morning, there was yet another explosion that took place. Now, in terms of the numbers, sheer numbers of the attacks that have taken place in and around Kyiv, go by what the US senator has to say, that at least 3 dozen missiles have already been fired in and around Kyiv. That's very important to point that out. Now, as far as the Ukrainian army is concerned, The latest report that I'm getting from the messages that we have got from the Ministry of Defense, there is a constant flow of information now coming in from the Ukrainian army. While there has already been one setback in terms of losing Snake Island, but they are saying that they're putting up a stiff resistance in ensuring that the Russian tanks, which are basically approaching towards Kyiv, that is basically stopped. The northwestern side, they are basically trying to move in from the northwestern side. Those tanks are coming in, which is basically indicates that the military drill, in the garb of the military drill that was being carried out in Belarus, there is a high possibility that those very tanks are being brought into the city. While, in fact, let me also tell our viewers the difficulty that the Republic Media Network has been facing while covering this entire war, this entire conflict. In fact, when we covered about 500 kilometers yesterday, starting from Kharkiv, where the explosions actually started around 6 o'clock in the morning, by the time we came later in the evening around Kyiv, entering Kyiv became a massive task, a mammoth task, primarily because I remember there have been a lot of checkpoints that have been put up across the city. People moving in and around Kyiv is becoming quite a difficult task. Let me also tell our viewers the sense that we are getting, the sense, this is purely out of what we are witnessing around us. And by interacting with some of the locals who have a great influence within the defense apparatus, they are indicating that the reason why a lot of people are just leaving Ukraine, because there are multiple reports suggesting that what Russia essentially wants to do is capture Kyiv, because that is going to send out a strong message that Kyiv is now under the control of the Russians. Having said that, how exactly is the Ukrainian army responding to it? Important to point that out, that we have seen stiff resistance in Gostomel, which is roughly about 3.5 hour drive from Kyiv, where there has been massive, intense battle between the Ukrainian army and the Russian army. In fact, some reports suggest, however, this number is yet to be confirmed by the Ministry of Defense. The number that has been quoted by some of the local agencies here in Kyiv, which once again, let me underscore this point, this is not an official number. They are saying that roughly about 800, that's 800 soldiers of the Russian army have been killed in action. This is obviously the kind of retaliation that is basically come in from the Ukrainian side. Also, in terms of the number of fighter jets that have been brought down, helicopters that have been brought down, tanks that have been attacked by the Ukrainian army, the number is quite substantial. So it goes on to indicate that there has been stiff resistance. But the fact of the matter is, whether at all they're going to be able to survive or hold fort for a couple of days more is something that we'll have to wait and watch, because somewhere down the line, the feeling that the Ukrainians have right now is they have been left in a lurch. And the economic sanctions that have been announced by the West, particularly by the US president, perhaps is not enough to deter Russian President Vladimir Putin, because clearly what appears is that there is a mission, and the mission is to accomplish, the mission is to capture Ukraine completely. It is no longer, as what the Russians have been trying to indicate, this is no longer about just a military operation to be carried out in the Donbas region. Let me just tell all our viewers where we are broadcasting from right now. Kyiv, in my understanding of conflict zones, let me tell you that there is a high possibility. There is a high possibility of things intensifying. And that is the reason why there are striking images on the streets of Kyiv, where people are essentially taking refuge in multiple shelters. People who haven't been able to leave from the city, they are taking shelters in basements, in metro stations, and primarily those who are saying that, look, where will we go? We don't have a place to go. For them, they're staying back. For those who have an option to at least sit in their car and perhaps leave to a slightly safer area, it's very difficult to say whether at all there is any safe area right now in Ukraine, because across the country, be it north, south or east, west primarily is a little bit more safer. But having said that, for how long would the Ukrainian army be able to hold fort is something that we'll have to wait and watch.